Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to talk about the Mutilators. So this has been a unit that's had a bit of a rough go of it in sort of 7th edition. Traditionally a bit of a hard unit because it was not considered the most competitive, and in 8th they're struggling a wee bit as well. However, what I would say is that with Chapter Approved they have had a big point reduction, and with that brings a lot more viability to the unit itself. So how this sort of works is that I have a look at the unit, look at its stats, what it's armed with, any upgrades it can have, and special abilities. I then have a look at loadouts and suggestions, roles that I think that the unit might fulfill. I then have a look at Legion traits, psychic abilities, and stratagems that might be of use to it as well. One caveat I will say about Mutilators is that because they have the demon rule and like demon keywords, I'm 90% sure that they can benefit quite a lot from the sort of Demons of Chaos codex in terms of synergy with them as well. I spoke about how I wouldn't talk about this, I'd simply concentrate on in the Possess video I said I would concentrate on sort of Chaos Space Marine side of it. And one guy made a really good comment in the Possessed video, I'm going to probably butcher this, is Jesse Bosalel, hopefully. Either way, you know, they made a fantastic comment, which is basically all this sort of how can I put it, sort of rules that can synergize well with Possessed and in turn probably with Mutilators, and they did them by God. So if you're like wanting to heavily play Khorne, it's like a brief section of like these ones can help you, and it's a really quite detailed and clear, concise comment on these sort of buffs. So I wanted to, you know, if you want to sort of see what demon unit, you know, demon abilities might help, go into the Possess video, have a look at that comment. It's really good. However, I'm concentrating on just in the Chaos Space Marine side if you want to run a complete Chaos Space Marine force. It was a really good comment. I wanted to give credit where credit's due. So with that, let's have a look at the Mutilators in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. So let's start off with the back to mention that they are slow, like, whoa man, really slow. 4-inch movement. So these guys are not going anywhere fast. This can be a real hindrance for a unit that is a combat dedicated unit. I've only played one battle report where I think I used a lot of 4-inch movement models, and it was tough, especially they were combat ones as well. So yep, okay, 4-inch movement, it's kind of what I'd expect. I'd pray for 5, but 4-inch is what we got. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, so that means you are hitting on 3+, which is, you know, kind of what you'd expect for Marines. However, they do hit at strength 5, which is very nice as a melee unit, just to have that extra strength to get them above the sort of basic sort of toughness 4, you know, above that, so you are wounding them no matter what, even on your sort of rolls, you're wounding them in 3s. Possibly better, but usually in 3s. The one disadvantage is that they are toughness 4. Now I would have hoped for these guys to be toughness 5, and I could be wrong in this. I think previously they were toughness 5. I could be really wrong in that, they may have just been toughness 4. But if they had that extra toughness, it would have meant they were more survivable to small arms fired by a wee bit. So yeah, toughness 4, not ideal, not great. I would have liked 5. But you can't always get what you want. Wounds 3 though, so these guys are quite tanky. Been able to survive a fair amount of damage with wounds of 3, so that's not bad. Attacks of 3, again not bad. More than most Terminators think are usually 2 attacks, so having 3 is pretty good. Leadership 8, again standard for a Marine, but for a unit like this, which is quite a small unit, it shouldn't have much of an effect, bar stratagems and psychic abilities that might abuse it. And a 2+ save. So that's really important to keep these guys alive, is being able to wither quite a lot of damage is the sort of key to this unit, I feel. So 2+ save is very much appreciated. Mutilators come in a unit of 3, so they are a small unit, but that's how many you get. And each mutilator is armed with flesh metal weapons. So that's the only weapon they get as well. What I'll begin by talking about, you know, sort of their special abilities before, because it kind of goes hand in hand with the weapon. I'll go into their special abilities first. So ability, Death to False Emperor. Not going to speak about that in too much detail, basically because it's quite long, but to summarise it, if you're fighting Imperial forces in combat, any 6+ to hit, you can make an additional attack, which is kind of handy against other, you know, Chaos players or Xenos players. You're not going to have any help from there. But against Imperium, yeah, super handy. They are demonic, so they've got 5 up invul, so that keeps them alive for longer, which is fantastic. Always really good to have a bit of an invul save just in case the heavier shots do come their way, which with 3 wounds they might. And Teleport Strike. During deployment you can set up this unit in the Teleportarium chamber instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of any of your movement phases, you can use the Teleport Strike to arrive in the battlefield, set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. So yeah, at the moment, you know, before the beta rules and everything, you know, we can deploy, you know, just 9 inches away from your opponent, which is really important because these guys are slow. So they probably will set up in Teleport Strike most of the time because they kind of want to be right in your opponent's face. So yeah, keeping them in Teleportarium is going to be pretty usual for them. So the important part is flesh metal weapons. I'll read this from the codex and I'll explain it a bit in my own words. When a unit of Mutilators is chosen to fight, roll 3d3 one after the other. For that fight, the first roll is added to the Mutilator's strength for the unit's attacks, the second roll is the AP for the unit's attacks, and the third roll is the damage for the unit's attacks. For example, if rolls were 1 followed by 3 followed by 2, then all of the unit's attacks for that fight would be strength +1, AP -3, and damage 2. If rolls were 1 followed by 3 followed by 2, yeah, so D3. So yeah, it'd be strength, so basically you're adding D3 to each of the stats, you know, with strength starting at 5 and the other starting essentially at 0. So yeah, flesh metal weapons, they are melee weapons, strength plus D3, AP minus D3, D3 damage. You know, kind of simple when you think of it that way, you are doing one after another. The problem with this weapon is that it can be great, on occasions you're going to get strength 8, minus 3 AP and 3 damage and you're going to shred some stuff apart. And then on the other occasions you're going to, you know, be, you know, sort of strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage, you know, so where on occasion you might be a, you know, brick through the window coming in hard, and then other times you might be pebbles against the window and causing some light cracks. I'm going to drop the sort of window analogy, but the point is that you don't predict sort of how hard you're going to hit, and that does make them quite unreliable. So yeah, going to come to loadout and suggestions and rules for the Mutilators. This is probably the easiest section for me because they've only got one loadout with no upgrades of any kind, so you've got to play them with their flesh metal weapons. However, I feel, you know, I should speak about the flesh metal weapons. One thing I noticed is that there's a bit of an injustice when compared to the melee variant, which is the Mutilator, against the sort of ranged equivalent, which is Obliterators, is that Mutilators are only strength 5 basic, and the highest they can be is 8, where Obliterators guns I think are strength 6 and can be 9. This means that, you know, Mutilators can only be strength 8 maximum, which means against sort of heavier targets such as Land Raiders you can only ever wound on a 4+ minus stratagems, etc. Which is not ideal, you know, but and with random stats as well, if you are facing, let's say, a Land Raider, you need to make sure you pass all those ones. You need to be strength 8, you need to be minus 3 AP, and you need to be 3 damage for these guys to warrant being in combat with a Land Raider. And the fact you've got to roll 3 dice and get that each time does make it a bit tricky to go, well, these guys are worth their points, because you just don't know what you're going to get. However, what if I said that this was not their role? Mutilators have gone down in points thanks to Chapter Approved, and I would argue that this makes them a very good distraction unit / tank unit, you know, and with deep strike and their great save and decent amount of wounds and an involved save, meaning they can wither quite a lot of firepower. And once they have deep strike in, they are kind of a unit that need to be dealt with, you know, because if they're not dealt with, they can then start moving towards your opponent's more vulnerable units and basically acting as a bit of a harassment unit. You know, you may not guarantee you'll do the pain straight away, but you know, overall you might just even harass your opponent. Say that you charged the Land Raider and you know, it had to fall back, and then you charge it again the next turn and it has to fall back. The point is, this is not a unit that will particularly hit hard, but it can be a right pain because it can survive pretty well and it's quite cheap. You know, I think they come up just above 120 points now for 3. Deep strike in, take a bunch of shots, keep those shots away from the other hitting units, and they can be quite good in that role. Will they though, you know, say if you took a unit of Terminators, will Terminators have a better chance of making their points back? Yep. Will Terminators cost more points? Probably. But that's the way it goes. But with these guys now being as cheap as they are, they make a fairly good deep striking distraction, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think on that one. Is there just no point? Let me know. But I think they can work as a bit of a distraction on that side. So let's start with Legion traits, Renegade Chapters, Dark Raiders. This allows a unit with this trait to advance and charge in the same turn. So yeah, Mutilators are slow, like really slow. So having an extra d6 is a huge advantage for them, hopefully giving them the extra sort of, you know, advantage of getting into combat, you know, get them there. I mean, essentially, you know, on a 50% chance, you're going to add either the same of their movement or more to their movement, which is great for a unit that is particularly slow. The disadvantage of this is that you're likely to deep strike these units in rather than foot slog, because these guys are slow. Maybe taking a Land Raider might be a bit more of an advantage here. However, either way, if you take a Land Raider, you're not going to pop out till turn 2 or 3, where you'll probably start seeing the advantage of this one. Basically, first turn you're either going to deep strike in and you can't advance, or you're going to go in a Land Raider, in which case you're probably not going to jump out in turn 1, because why were they in the Land Raider in the first place? So 2 or 3 is where you're probably going to see more advantage with this. World Eaters, Butcher's Nails. When a unit with this trait makes a successful charge, you can make 1 additional attack with each of its models in the subsequent fight phase. Yeah, we all enjoy extra attacks, however at the end of the day this is only 1 attack per model, so you're only really getting 3 extra attacks. They can however hit quite hard, and 4 attacks per model is not bad. So yeah, another one to think about, but again, this trait really relies on numbers getting the most out of it. The advantage is that you can possibly, if fates align, hit hard, which makes the extra attack kind of worth it. Psychic abilities, Warp Time, Warp Charge 6. Pick a Heretic Stash unit within 3 inches of the Psyker. This unit can immediately move as if it was the movement phase. Unit can only benefit once per, benefit from this once per psychic phase. So yeah, as I said, Mutilators are slow, like they are slow. So Warp Time, you know, is almost a necessity for them to sort of, you know, help them cover the battlefield, especially if you go Renegades, which will allow you to advance as well as charge, which is so important. One thing to note is in the recent FAQ is that they clearly say you cannot deep strike or set up, you know, deep strike or set up as reinforcements, and you can't really move again for any reason, and they use Warp Time as an example to say you can't do this. I think it's like page 3 in magenta, sorry, page 5 in magenta, you know, can such a unit move or advance for any other reason, e.g. because of an ability such as Swarm Lord's Hive Command's ability, or because of psychic powers such as Warp Time from the Dark Hereticus Discipline, or because stratagems, they'd go no. So no more deep striking, then, you know, warp timing, then advancing. Done. That would have been that would have made these guys great, but you can't do that anymore. So warp time can still help, maybe in later turns, but as I said, these guys' role is sometimes maybe just to be a distraction, to jump down and, you know, your opponent's like, cool, I need to move them from that objective, I need to get them out of that cover, otherwise they'll start moving towards me. But essentially no more warp time from deep strike. But it still can be handy because there's still 4-inch movement. Delightful Agonies, Warp Charge 6, Mark of Slaanesh only. If manifested, select a visible Slaanesh Heretic Stash unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, roll a d6 each time a model in the unit loses a wound. On a 5+, it does not lose that wound. Out of the dedicated spells which will help you survive, I find this one to be the best. This unit can move into place, be a threat, and attract a fair amount of firepower to remove it. With an already impressive 2+ save, then only an AP value of -3 would really make Weavers of Fate a better alternative. And Miasma of Pestilence is pretty good too, because it would make plasma units think twice about shooting into them, because it means they're going to fry themselves if they supercharge, which you want to do against Mutilators. You want to wound in 2s and cause 2 damage, but if it means you're going to lose quite a lot of plasma guys in the process, it's kind of tough on that one. And you know what, if you supercharge and kill yourself and more to Miasma, then all the better. Mutilators are, I count them making their points back that way as well. If they work as a distraction, good times. Stratagem recommendations. Veterans of the Long War. Cost 1 command point. Use this stratagem when a Heretic Stars infantry or biker unit is selected to attack in a shooting or fight phase, excluding units from Renegade chapters. Ouch. You can add 1 to all wound rolls made for the unit until the end of the phase. So hurts because Renegades works really well for these guys, but what are you going to do? Thankfully, as mentioned in my Possessed video, and I foolishly didn't realise this until I started doing these review videos and realised that's how it works, you determine their stats and activate Veterans sort of when the unit is chosen to fight. It doesn't say which order you do that in, just that when the unit's chosen to fight, do that first. So I would go, right, cool, I'm choosing to fight, I'm going to work out the flesh metal weapons stuff, roll your strength, your d3 and damage, and cool, right now I'm going to activate Veterans and my stratagems on them as well. You know, correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I would basically go, when the unit is chosen to fight, I choose them, I'll do their flesh metal weapon roll, I'll then do their stratagems. That makes it a lot more reliable in terms of when using Veterans. For instance, say you've got 1 on each of the stats and you're not going to cause that much damage, don't use Veterans. It's not going to help you that much, but it's going to be pretty poor investment. But say that you did get high damage, high strength and everything, then you might be, okay, time to activate Veterans and really sort of push these attacks to do better. I said there will be a time when you get the perfect stats for these guys and you do a great amount of damage. You know, so, you know, that's the way I would do it, you know. Am I right on that? Do you need to actually declare all the abilities you're doing before you work them out when you choose a unit to attack? I'd argue no. I'd say when you choose a unit to fight, you activate the ability, you work it out, you do the next ability, you do that one, you activate your next one. That's how I would do it, and it just makes them a little bit more reliable in terms of the damage that you might cause. Next stratagem is Excess of Violence. Cost 1 command point. Use the stratagem just before an Emperor's Children infantry unit attacks in the fight phase. Each time a model in your unit slays an enemy model, it can immediately make another hit roll using the same weapon at the same target. These bonus attacks cannot themselves generate any further attacks. So it's funny how Slaanesh style stratagems can work well for both the Cult of Destruction units. You know, with the Obliterators having one that works quite well for them, which I think is, yeah, again, I think that's more mark of Slaanesh. But again, Emperor's Children, you get my idea. Emperor's Children, Slaanesh, Cult of Destruction seems to work quite well with them. But I'll talk about that in Obliterators. So this is really good because, like Veterans, you can determine stats before activating it, and you get to keep the stats as you attack further. So if you slay them, then you get to attack again, but you keep the stats as before. So you've got that bit of reliability on them. This can help finish off heavier units quite well if the stats are good enough. Mix in Death to the False Emperor in the first round, and you might be lucky to end up with a heck of amount of attacks that you didn't expect. One thing I would say about that one in terms of, you know, it says you can't have these bonus attacks can't themselves generate any further attacks. Wonder if that means you can't actually generate, you know, say those attacks then generate Death to the False Emperor attacks. Can they then generate those Death to the False Emperor? So you're, you know, you do your initial attacks and you get an extra 2 attacks from Death to the False Emperor, and you kill 5 models. You then roll your next attacks due to excessive violence, and then you get some Death to the False Emperor activations. It says you can't generate extra attacks, so I'm going to say you probably can't. I didn't realise that until I read that there. You know, that's an interesting one, because I'd love to be able to go right now and generate more Death to the False Emperor in the second round, but it says you can't generate extra attacks. It doesn't say extra attacks from the stratagem, just can't generate you know, extra attacks, so that's not going to happen. Let me know what you think on that one. I still think for its command points, you know, it's 1 command point. If you have some great stats on these guys, it can be an absolute solid choice. So yeah, that is the Mutilators. I actually like them. I would like to test them, see how they do. Will they make their points back? Probably not, but will they work as a good distraction? Yeah, maybe so. Your opponent's going to have to put some damage into them, put them in cover. They're going to be a really hard shift, and basically work as a bit of a threat. You know, I've learned with Obliterators that your opponents just love to charge Obliterators and make sure they can't shoot. Well, you don't want to charge these guys because they can be a bit of a pain themselves as well. So yeah, that's the Mutilators. I'd love to hear what you think on these ones, guys. As I said, they've had a bit of a rough going around when it came to 7th. Then Chapter proved, you know, in 8th they're a bit rough as well. Chapter proved to have given them a bit of a lease of life. Let me know what you think on that one. I would have personally loved a stratagem, you know, say it was the Cult of Destruction, which I believe only Mutilators and Obliterators share as keywords, and it would have been, you know, a command point or 2 where basically your randomly determined stats automatically count as 6s. Oh boy, would it give these guys and Obliterators a bit more life in them. But no, that stratagem doesn't exist. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts on these are, guys. That'd be awesome. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. Please comment, share, like and subscribe, and also check us out on social media and Patreon as well, because helping us out is always really nice and it brings more content to you guys. So thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.